Brad Williams, Excel primed, running sum of appliances sold. What seems to be a very straightforward approach can be confusing. And what do I mean by confusing? Trying to interpret this particular formula sometimes throw you off. So let me just try to explain this as simple as I can. We're going to use the sum index in order to keep a running total. The index returns a value based on its column and row numbers. Well, I don't know if that's the best description, but I will do my best to try to explain this so you can say, I got it. Here's the structure. Sum index E5, E13 to E5. Before we dive in, I want to point out relative rows because this index is the exact same concept. It's the same definition, but if you don't get this relative row deal, then you'll never get this total count deal. Here we have rows. We're going to use the rows function. Rows function, the formula equals rows I5 to I7. Calculates the number of rows in the range from cell I5 to the cell in the same column as cell I7. Here's the range. This is the range right here, 1. It's going to count 1. What's the second range? Well, the range is going to be, think of this as range. It's going to say array, but this is the array. This is the range. What are we doing? We're counting rows. How many rows in the range? Notice this mixed reference here. We have to keep that constant. In other words, we can't have I5 change. And if we move down, we go to I7. How many rows in I5 to I7? 3. The dollar sign before the number 5 in I5 makes the row number a mixed reference, which means that when the formula is copied to other cells, the row number will remain the same while the column may change. The row is going to change. This is useful when you want to refer to a fixed cell in a formula. Assuming that the formula in cell J7, for example, I'll forget that, the range I5 to 7 would refer to the 3 cells in I5, I6, and I7. The formula would return the value 3, which is the number of rows in this range. As the formula is copied down to other cells, the range reference will change, but the absolute row reference will remain the same. In other words, this I5 will change. Now, in terms of the sum index, this particular formula, the formula calculates the sum of a range of cells in column E, from the first cell in the range to the cell in row, whatever's the last in 13. The index function is used to return the first cell in the range. Remember, this is all about the range. This is why this particular returns a value based on its column and row number. It's kind of a weak description. The index function is used to return the first cell. Therefore, the range of cells that will be summed up starts from the first cell in E5 and extends to the cell reference in row 5 or row 13. This should be row 13. How do we interpret this? I just showed you the 1, 2, 3. What range? We're going to count how many rows are in I5 to I7, 3. We're going to count how many numbers are in this range, 1, 2, 3. What we're going to do is we're just going to look here, going to highlight this, hit F9. Okay. I told you have to be careful about grabbing the correct information. Inside parentheses, you had to include that. And what's the difference between counting the 3 rows and counting or summing these 3 numbers over here in E? We're doing the exact same thing. And sum is just going to grab this and going to look at these 3 numbers and it's going to add them. Then it's going to go down here. That's exactly what it did. Then we're going to go to the next. We're going to look at this information and hit F9. We're counting or summing the range. Where's the range? The range is 1. This is row 1, index, the array, the row number. Notice it says row 1. It says row 1. Row 1 to E6. What's E6? It's the second row. So we're counting row 1 and row 2, or summing row 1 and row 2. We're going down, and now we're summing row 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going down, and so that's it. Here, this is just a reference if we did this manually. This is really not necessary. So we're just going to get rid of that. Let's just close this up. Let's redress this. Put the border around here. Narrow this down a little bit. Sort of a cumbersome approach to keeping a running total. This is rather complex, but if you need to extend this to more complexity, you might have to incorporate this. Does it have to be that difficult? Absolutely, 100%. No. Why? Really? Simple math. Here we have 34.5. Why don't we just go 34.5 plus 42.5? 77.1. Does it match this? Yes. If we just go 77.1 plus 57.720, H6 plus E7. H7 plus E8. If I need to do a running sum without any complexity, well, come on. I'm using the easiest method possible. This, use at your discretion. Brad Williams, XL Prime, thanks for watching.